Max Bowman.
Hey, Jeff. So with the power play units that were out there today, I think, are those where things stand, or like Rasmussen he was in on 1-5-0, but then he was penalty killing. You're going against, is he on the power play right now?
Well, we got probably couple decisions to make on the power play, but that might not be made like game one. I think Ras will get a chance, or certainly will get opportunity on the power play. I can't remember who he was switching in and out with. Maybe, Suits, he'll get an opportunity in the power play. I think Earns and Gags were switching out. They'll get opportunities on the power play, and we'll see over time which guys play the best. So it also, allows us to have those guys kill as well. And so we want to get them reps both ways. So, is he on the power play? He was one of 14 guys on the power play, and obviously, or 13 maybe. We got to get it to 10. So doesn't have to be to 10 in game one. Ultimately, we'd like to get to where there's chemistry built. But I also think competition's important, and we'll see which guys get it done.
What have you thought of kind of what you've seen? I know you haven't had those units together a whole time, but the way things have run so far.
We haven't had those units together. That's a misfortune of some of the injuries. Misfortune of maybe not having a lot of practice time is just a group. That's just the reality of it. So it's been different units. I think when we've been successful, we've moved the puck crisply, we've moved it quickly, and we haven't forced plays. And when we've struggled, we've become too nonchalant with the puck, or careless and forced plays. So, I thought it's got a chance to be a good power play units, but we got to make sure we move it quickly and we don't force plays.
Thanks. Lead St. James.
Jeff, when you have a player as young as Lucas, how do you evaluate, not just how he's performing on ice, but he's never been through anything this strenuous of a season?
Yeah, and I'd probably include sides with that too. He's a year older, but I mean, this is different than anything there's nothing like the NHL in terms of the day-to-day competition, the pressure externally, internally that you face. And so, I think any young player coming in, honestly, not really even about the age, you got to just make sure that there's lots of communication and we want to make sure we're coaching them. And when you coach people, you tell them when they do things well, and you tell them when they don't do things well so they can correct it. But we got to make sure there's not too much information and that they can go out and play with confidence. And that's a balance. And, the thing I would say is part of becoming an elite athlete, and part of making it compared to those that don't is mental toughness matters tons. And guys that can take coaching, can take positive reinforcement, can take criticism and stay pretty even keeled and continue to do what they think is right on the ice are the ones that ultimately have success. And the guys that get knocked down and then get back up with their confidence intact are the ones that have success. And I think both of those two young guys have that mental makeup, and I think it'll be critical to their success.
And then just a broader question looking ahead to the season, 1920 was fairly miserable, and last season, you played in the pandemic, things were unusual. Now with the new players, with the depth, with fans back, does it kind of feel like there's a really opportunity for a fresh start and just kind of distance yourselves from some growing pains over the past few years?
Yeah, I think the reality is, first off, I think there's certainly a renewed excitement anytime a year starts, and especially a year in which you're looking at a season with a lot more fans than what we had a year ago. So there's an energy and an excitement about that for certain. I think every season you are a collective group, and that group changes from year to year. And certainly in our case, there's a lot of new faces. But as that group, you're going to get a chance to basically decide what gets said about you at the end of the year, decide what your output's going to be, and regardless of what's happened in the past, You know, we work for and play for an organization that's had a history of great success, and in the last 5 years or so, we've had very little success. Neither one of those things really matter. What matters is what this group does. And so, you know, we're going to focus on our group as a team, and we're hopefully going to grow both individually and collectively as we move forward. And you know, we hope to win the game on Thursday night and then reattack it going into Saturday.
Lastly, anything on the alternates yet, or?
I'll let you know when we make that public.
Answer Khan.
Yeah, Jeff, you're talking about Lucas and his just his mental makeup and whatnot. You see any similarities between him and Larkin from 6 years ago? I mean, kind of the same situation, a young guy battling to make the team fairly early. Do you see any similarities in Lucas's approach and his mental makeup as with Dylan from back then?
Well, they're honestly very, very different people. I think both of them have an inner belief in themselves. I think both of them have an inner drive to be great. I think both of them, you know, can accept coaching and but they're definitely different people. You know, and that's just the reality of personalities. And they're probably, you know, coming in at different times. You know, I think Larks was able to play with Z right away, which I think was a positive for him, and hopefully, you know, Raymond playing with Larkin can help Razor. So, is there some similarities? I think some, you know, like I talked about, but they're definitely different people.
And you talked yesterday about just the depth on defense. As far as getting that depth of scoring also up front, how important is it just to get secondary scoring, a solid second line? It looks like you're entering the season with a little bit more confidence, I'm sure, with Suter, the way he's fit into that role, and Fabry and the camp that he had, and just getting that secondary scoring.
Yeah, I mean, I you know, let's be honest. We need scoring. I wouldn't just limit it to secondary scoring. If we're being honest, like, everybody needs to contribute across the board, you know, and I don't think we have, you know, guys that you're going to pencil in at 40 goals to start the season. Doesn't mean guys won't score 40, but we don't have, you know, a guy like an Ovechkin who year in and year out has been in that high range, or a number of other guys that, you know, like a guy like Stamkos even, or Kucherov or whatever. So, you know, I think just as a collective group, we have to do it. We have to do it together. You know, how do you score? You know, one of the ways certainly is if your power play goes at a better rate than it's been. One of the ways is that you find ways to create open looks in that net front area. I mean, that's where all the goals are scored, is in that slot in the net front, and so we got to find ways to create open looks in those areas, and then maybe in transition on the rush. You know, and I would continue to go back, and I hope you guys understand why, like, you better check well, because if you check well, you don't need to score 4. You might can score 3 on a regular basis and win, and that's a huge difference. So, you know, we're going to have to be, for us to have success, we're going to have to be a great checking team. We're going to have good specialty teams, and we need a collective group of 12, 13, 14 forwards to score.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Ted Colvin.
Hey, Jeff, one more on Sider and Raymond. I mean, let's face it, this fan base, I mean, they've wanted to see these kids for a long time, and if the expectations aren't sky high, they're pretty high still. Do you want them to embrace that, or do you guys try to manage or deflect it a little bit?
I would say that you know, we try to deal in reality, and listen, these aren't the first 2 names over the last 6 to 8 to 10 years that, you know, people have been really excited about, and some of those guys have come and done a good job. Some of those guys have faltered and maybe don't play in the NHL, and you know, and I don't know that any of them have been elite guys yet. You know, Larkin's been probably the guy that's proven to be the best player of that group of young guys coming up through the system. So we're always excited about potential, and I get that. So am I. But potential has to become reality. And I think both Sider and Raymond have attributes to be real good hockey players and real good winners, which matters. Now, how good can they become? I don't know that answer, and how quickly, I don't know that answer. That's for them to kind of decide with their play on a night-to-night basis. But certainly, I think we always have to measure your expectations. That what is the potential of each guy, and how much do they, how quickly can they reach it?
Hey, Jeff, is it kind of different nowadays for some of these kids? It just seems like the exposure is out there so much more than it was before. And obviously, I guess that feeds into the expectations. It just seems like life could be a little bit more difficult in a way for some of these kids coming up.
It's funny, like I was with a couple of high school friends last night at dinner, and we were just talking about different things. And one of it was young people, and whether it be our players or whatever it might be, there's a lot of differences, and there's a lot of different pressures that young people are under across the board. My kids in high school, the players that play for us, there's just so much more social media out there, and people tend to be very aggressive on those platforms, and a lot of times very judgmental, and a lot of times probably downright mean, and so there's pressure on young people that I never had, for certain, and I don't envy that. So is there more pressure on our players? Yes, but I also think they grow up hopefully learning how to handle that. And I think one of the biggest things in life is to be comfortable in your own skin and not really give a damn what other people think about you. And the quicker you can get to that, the more successful you're going to be as a person, and the happier life you'll live. So I think, probably because young people are forced to do that at an earlier age, hopefully there's a lot of people that are real comfortable in their own skin in our room and do the best they can. That's all you can control.
That's good. Thanks for this.
Yep.
Bob Winowski.
Hey there, Jeff. Curious, obviously your team seems deeper and obviously it's younger. Do you have a clear grasp of where you think it's overall improved? What area?
I think for the media that were on yesterday, I talked about the fact that there's in my mind, zero doubt this is as deep of decor as we've had here, probably since I've been the head coach here. That there is, I don't think, any doubt. I think we've got 8 defensemen that have either proven on a regular basis, or in a case like Sider and maybe Lindstrom, we totally believe are NHL defensemen. So in some guys that have been top 4, I think have potential to be top 4. So I don't think there's any doubt that we have an opportunity to have a real good decor. I think I think our goaltending, we had 2 guys that were pretty established last year and did a good job with us, and I think we can have the same this year. Can it be better? That's up for those guys to go out and play at an elite level, and the same thing up front. I think how good are we up front? Can we score a lot more? How talented are we? It just depends on how guys play. Certainly Jacob Varane is a guy who we were going to count on to score a lot of goals, and he's not with us for 4 months, but that doesn't mean other guys can't. So, I think, Wojo, to answer your question, I think we're I've said this lots of organization. I think we're heading the right direction. How much better will we be? How quickly? I can't answer that, because, as I said, it's up really to the development of players, or I guess I should say just as much the execution of players.
Just a quick follow-up. The question that you can't answer, I guess I'll ask it anyhow, is you guys took a fairly significant leap last year, at least record-wise and whatever. Do you sort of feel like you guys are due in a way with some of these young guys to take another leap this year? I don't know how big, but a leap.
Well, I think we'll have the chance to do it. We got to go out and do it. I think we've got, I like teams that are built from the back end. And as I said, I think our back end is although there'll be, I'm sure, some growing pains with some young players, I think our back end is certainly deeper and has a chance to be a real good back end. So we've got an opportunity to take a step. Again, how big, I don't know. I will tell you, the step that we took last year is the easier one. You know, every step you move up the mountain gets harder and harder and harder. So, you know, it's like going from 100 golfer shoots 100 to a golfer shoots 90. That's an easy step. It gets harder to be 80 and then way harder to be 70, you know, and it's the same thing as you're trying to improve as a hockey team, you know, because I think there's other teams in our division that think they got better too. So it's all relative to the competition. Do we have a chance to be a good team? I think we do, but we got to go out and prove it on a night-to-night basis.
So are you a 90 or an 80 or 100?
Well, I'm an 80s, I would say, that can't get to the 70s because my putting's not good enough.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's it for us today. Thanks, everyone.